Hi everyone, it's me Abhishek Kaushik, starting the PAX Data ML YouTube channel. Today in the very first episode, there's a friend of mine, a very long-term friend of mine, and the founder of Frogames Formación. Not just the founder, but he's also an expert in Python data science and machine learning. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduced you to my friend Juan Gabriel Salas. Hi Juan.
Hi, how are you? Thank you very much for the introduction.
Same here. I'm also doing extremely good. How's it been? Things going there?
Very good so far. I've been traveling a lot this last month, delivering trainings on different areas like Middle East and Europe. And it's good to be back finally at home.
Yeah. So the reason why we have gathered for this YouTube live is primarily going about your knowledge and sharing your insights and sharing whatever experience you have so far when it comes to the catering to the data science community and the Python community. So
Okay.
we have like a lot of questions which upon running the campaign the users asked. And but before going forward, there's a question which I want to start it from my question. So it's like a personal interest to me. And the very
Okay.
first question, yeah. So and the very first question which I have for you is, I can see that you run multiple courses on Udemy. The best selling and the hot favorites being the Python, starting from A to Z, as well as the advanced form of machine learning blended with Python and its libraries. So for somebody like, for somebody who wants to make use of Python data science into his or her day-to-day life, whether the person is from a tech background or non-tech, how should one start? If I have to nurture my knowledge of Python, from where should I start?
I will tell you a fun story because I thought that people were prepared to learn machine learning from scratch without prior knowledge. And one of my first courses, as you mentioned, was machine learning A to Z. So after publishing that, I just discovered that the problems were usually not with the algorithms, with the conditions, with analyzing the results, but with the very basis. So that was the moment when I decided, okay, if I want people to learn machine learning, first I need to teach them mathematics. First, I need to teach them programming, because at the end of the day, most of the problems were that they forgot a semicolon at the end, or that they forgot this parentheses, or that they open a square brackets where it needs to be curly brackets, this kind of basic stuff. So yeah, I thought that people were prepared for machine learning A to Z and later deep learning A to Z. But that's when I said, Juan, just take one step back. And that's what I created, Python A to Z. And I just created that in a way that people could learn a programming language in the same way that probably anybody would learn any spoken language. So at the end of the day, when you want to learn a language, in my case, I'm not English speaker. I'm Spanish, but I needed to learn English at some point. So when you learn English, you need to learn the subject, the verbs, the pronouns, the different attributes, adjectives, whatever. So you learn piece by piece different parts of the language. So basically, at the end, you can have a conversation now with you, for instance. So for me, it was the same idea. I prepared Python A to Z in the same way,
Right.
with an adventure of a pirate that needs to travel the seas, and in each of the island he encounters some problems and they need to be solved by programming with Python. And I need to say that this is nowadays what I recommend to people, that yes, they want to do machine learning on their companies, they want to implement deep learning, but
Yeah.
first they need to master Python, because otherwise it's an endless battle of going back and forth without the proper basics.
That's a really insightful answer, and that answers my question. But adding to you, since you mentioned a lot of things about Python and machine learning, that Python is like the foundation. So this is again, so I'm starting from out of curiosity. This is my question. Then I'll be starting it with the user sections questions. So when starting Python, while starting Python, for somebody who has a basic knowledge or for somebody who is starting from scratch, what are the essential libraries that one needs to be aware of in a day-to-day life? I'm not talking about the hardcore libraries like Python with LangChain, just like the essential ones that those are like everyone needs to be aware of, be it a techie guy or be it a non-tech guy. So if you
Yeah.
can mention and elaborate something on that.
Yeah, of course. For the first weeks of learning, I don't recommend any libraries, because at the end of the day, learning about integers, floats, strings, creating functions, and the architecture of the language is usually more than enough. When people want to start doing more fancy things, and what fancy means, it means creating data structures, it means creating graphics, creating their first machine learning algorithm, maybe a linear regression, doesn't need to be fancy, artificial intelligence, whatever. They need to start adding these libraries, of course, because that makes life thousands of times easier. So probably the first two libraries I would recommend, well, three of them would be pandas on one side, because pandas at the end of the day is one of these libraries that makes treating structured data thousands of times easier. And at the end of the day, when we are talking about machine learning, we are talking about tabular data, rows with evidence,
Yeah.
columns with characteristics. So basically pandas make these things easier to filter, to find, to aggregate, separate, you name it. Then the second one would be NumPy, because NumPy allows
Okay.
you to numeric Python to do calculations with numbers in Python. And at the end of the day, calculating means, um, standard deviations, normalizing, and doing any kind of operation that involves numeric data needs to be done with NumPy, because NumPy is already prepared to work with pandas, with tabular data. So basically, we don't need to do changes one by one, line by line, but we can apply the transformation to the whole data structure in one go. That is, by the way, one of the reasons why Python is the language for machine learning and not Java or not JavaScript or not any other programming language, C Sharp, because Python is prepared for this kind of data structure with these libraries and makes our life, let's say, thousands of times easier. And the third one would be matplotlib, because at the end of the day, an image is worth more than 1,000 words, as they used to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you have thousands of data, millions of data, you cannot learn and understand them all. Yeah, you can summarize the information with
Yeah.
one deviation and start creating the normal curves. But at the end of the day, you want to see the distribution. Do we have outliers? Are things surrounding one value, maybe two values, they are bimodal, maybe they are not normal but they are exponential? What kind of distribution does my data have? Even this morning I was listening to a podcast, and
Yeah.
LLMs nowadays simplify a lot of these things. Later we will talk about that, because LLMs now are changing the rules of the game, of course. But at the end of the day, LLMs stand for language models. They understand
Yeah.
language, and at some point they are not yet able to understand images as we humans do. If I give you the data for, I don't know, Amazon stocks from 2020 now towards today, probably I will give you 2000 pieces of data, opening, closing, maximum,
Mm.
minimum data. And as an LLM, understanding the data surrounding that, it will not be as accurate as if you, as data scientist, you draw one of these candlestick charts, and
Yeah.
basically you are able to get more information. So matplotlib for me is one of these libraries that saves the day, because at the end of the day, when you're starting from scratch, the first thing you want to
Yeah.
do is understanding the data, how data is prepared,
Exactly.
how data is represented, how you can understand the surroundings. And with the images, that is perfect. One of these libraries that, together with Seaborn, but Seaborn is a little more advanced, for people that starting from scratch, Matplotlib would be the one to go with. And on the other side,
Yeah.
whenever you already control the basics of the language, you want to go into machine learning, deep learning. The two libraries that I recommend without any hesitation would be scikit-learn, because it has
Yeah.
a lot of the algorithms already implemented in Python, from linear regression to super vector machines. You have everything over there without needing to implement them by yourself. A lot of improvements on the algorithms, a lot of the small tweaks that you can do to increase performance and efficiency. And of course, TensorFlow. TensorFlow, if you want to go with neural networks, TensorFlow, Keras, these libraries are a must for anybody that wants to go into the deep learning and creating their own artificial intelligence networks.
I mean, the answer to the answer to my question, which I had the curiosity to ask, has been, framed and understood by me with utmost grace in a way that if I know Python, or if somebody knows Python, it answers all your questions. Nobody is required to learn. I would say if I have good knowledge of, sound knowledge of Python, I may not require the use of Microsoft Excel. I can make all those pivots by commanding and making use of the libraries which you just mentioned about, like pandas. For visualizations, we have matplotlib, Seaborn, so on and so forth. So, I mean, yeah, starting from my question, I'll just start with the next one, which one of the users fills in the form. So the next question says that, when approaching any data science or any data analytics problem, what are the things that one needs to take into account? So what exactly are the essential things one should be aware of, one should look forward to? So I mean, what I understand is it like the quality of the data? Is it like the pattern design patterns within the data itself? So what exactly a user should look forward to when encountered by a data science or any data analytics problem?
Okay. So basically, a few years ago, well, about around 10 years ago, when they started with this boom of machine learning, of AI, neural networks, and so forth, there was an article in Forbes
Yeah.
that says something like data is the gold of the 21st century.
Okay.
And this is true, but I don't 100% agree with that. I would say that data is the junk of the 21st century, and sometimes there is a little bit of gold among all that big pile of junk. What do I mean with that? Companies have been storing data for the last 10, 15 years. Once Amazon became so popular, everybody started gathering and collecting data all around. I remember the first company I worked with, they were collecting around 1-2 gigabytes of data per hour. So it was a lot because it was just numbers about people playing online to the video game. So among all that amount of data, sometimes we can find key data. That means that the quality of the data is one of the musts when you start. Usually, a data scientist spends 80% or more of the time just by cleaning the data, by getting rid of the outliers, by inferring missing numbers, by discarding some of the things that don't make any sense. So that means that the dirtier the data is, the more time the data scientist will be a cleaner rather than a scientist. That's a fact. So this is one of the things that is very important, and that I want to stress that out, because sometimes when a company asks for an external evaluation or for some assessment or some kind of consultancy, after a few days working with them, a data scientist that is humble, that is honest, should sometimes say, hey, the only thing I can tell you is that the data you have is not worth anything, nothing, because you have this pile of junk and nothing can be inferred from that. Okay, so this is very important, and companies are every now and then more aware of that, of course, and usually they try to implement more accurate filters so the data they have, it's better and better every now and then. Of course, when data is clean, or after the data has been cleaned by the developer or the data scientist, it comes the moment of deciding if this data has something to tell me. That means maybe this data with a linear regression send me towards a direction, towards a tendency. Maybe I can use a classification algorithm to separate customers from churners. Maybe I can estimate how much a client is willing to spend before they leave the product or they leave something on the chart. And that means that the better knowledge of the algorithms a data scientist has, the more tools he has to answer the questions. I usually compare that when you go to one of these big stores where you can buy the whole case with the tools, with the drill, the hammer, everything is over there. And if you really want to be a good do-it-yourselfer at home, you need to learn how to use all these tools. Maybe you just know how to use the hammer and you try to do everything with the hammer. Well, good luck if you want to screw a door with a hammer, isn't it? So with data scientists, it's just the same. Every one of the algorithms a data scientist learns and masters is one of the tools from the case. And the better they know about the algorithms, about the restrictions, the constraints, when to use them, when not to use them, and so forth, the better they are prepared for assessing correctly their own companies or doing evaluations on behalf of somebody else. And that leads us towards the last one, available tools. In the moment we are right now, it's, I would say, impossible to learn and remember everything. Since internet became the standard 25, 30 years ago, nobody remembers everything. So far you go, I am the first one that if I don't remember what is the condition for this algorithm to be applied or not, I go to the Wikipedia. I always say that the Wikipedia explains mathematics 1,000 times better than me, because at the end of the day, it's a collection of so much knowledge over there that anybody can control there for free, of course. So that changed 3, 4, 5 years ago with LLMs, especially with ChatGPT. Whenever you have the possibility to have somebody to consult your work, to send your work and receive some feedback, and even nowadays create an agent. So basically, one agent can assess my work, or even one agent can do my work while the other one assess, and it becomes a dialogue among different agents. That means that the tools I had, imagine the hammer to put the nail on the wall, now becomes powered 10 times thanks to the power of AI. That means that instead of me calculating 10 different metrics, AI can do that for me, or even AI can suggest me what are the best metrics for one thing or the other, because they are starting to understand all these things. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, a data scientist is the power of the knowledge they have, usually the programming, mathematics, and knowledge on the field they're working on, plus the algorithms and the tools they have, plus how powered these tools may be with, now we call it AI, we call it agents, we may call it something else in 2026.
I mean, it's more of like, it's not just the tools and technologies. One should also be a good master how to make use, and when exactly what to make use of. So that answers the question with utmost beauty. Now, the next thing which, while I was going through the form, was that for somebody who wants to start from scratch into Python, I mean, majorly in Python, because that's the foundation to be able to move forward to machine learning. So when it comes to making the portfolios, the projects, to be able to reflect one's work, whether be it like a working professional, or whether, for someone who wants to make a career transition as per the changing landscape of the competitive world, how should one start, and what exactly are the kinds of project one should keep the emphasis on? So in a way, so that's the question which one of the users asked.
Yeah, basically, we mentioned that at the end of the day, data science is a union of mathematics or technical knowledge, let's say, programming language, so they can translate the technical knowledge into activable code, let's say, to process the data, blah, 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 and a field of expertise in one area. For instance, it's not the same analyzing medical data coming from the COVID than analyzing, in my case, things on video games, which is my field of expertise. So from there, we need to think about, okay, if I start from scratch, which of the 3 areas I feel more comfortable with? Do I already have the mathematical knowledge and I need to learn about the field of expertise? I already know how to program but I need to investigate a little more the technical things behind every algorithm. Maybe I master a field because I've been working on the industry for 20,
Yeah.
30 years, and what I need to do is automate these things through programming. So depending on where you lack the experience is where you need to study first. But
Okay.
since you already master the other areas, you need to explode that. So that
Yeah.
means that at some point, if you are already familiar with medicine, let's say, what you need to do is start creating data analysis on medicine. And how do you do
Okay.
that? Well, nowadays there is a lot of websites where you can find competitions. My favorite one is kaggle.com, where you
Yeah.
can find competitions, data sets, and a lot of things to start with. So imagine you're an expert in medicine. You can go to kaggle.com, find the data set, imagine identifying a possible disease from an x-ray. So if I already have the knowledge, I only need to understand how to load these x-rays into Python. Once the data is in Python, apply different classification algorithms, maybe train a neural network to separate a COVID from a pneumonia. And from here, you start building. What I mean with that is that we usually think that going into data science is just cutting from everything we knew in the past and start from
Okay.
scratch. But it's more a continuation. The knowledge I have from the past has a lot of value. Otherwise, see how many people is employing people in LinkedIn based on the previous knowledge, based on their experience. This experience has a lot of value. So in that case, if you want to start for the first time into data science, see what you lack the most. Because if you
Get
already
it.
have the knowledge on a domain, you need to explode that when you create your first analysis. And of course, once this analysis is done, don't keep it for yourself. A lot of people is afraid to share, either because other people will steal what I did, either because they are afraid or shy of their work. You don't need to be afraid of that, because at the end of the day, if you don't share it with the world, nobody
Yeah.
knows what you're doing and nobody will hire.
Exactly.
So my recommendation is that this first competition you enter in Kaggle, this first analysis you did by yourself, publish it, make it public, published on LinkedIn, published. And even if you learn from a teacher, I have a lot of students that learn from my courses, as you mentioned. Tag me on that. Hey, see the analysis I did thanks to the course I took from Juan.
Yeah.
Not to give me kudos, but to be aware of what the students are doing, and even myself, I can give them feedback. So that is a very cool way.
Exactly.
That is a very cool way, because you lose the fear of this first analysis. Once the first is done, there will be a second, a third, and so forth. But at the end of the day, the goal doesn't have an end. There is not an end point where you say, now I
Yeah.
am a data scientist. It's just a walk, sometimes with a lot of turns, sometimes with a cliffs, sometimes with a little bit of danger. So basically, the more you learn on the path,
Sometimes,
you get,
sometimes on the plateau itself, like steep.
yes, sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, so Kwan, since I know that you run a lot of courses on Udemy. So for someone who who is going through your courses, starting his or her journey, and who also completes the course within the desired respective time. So after completing, your course, after mastering Python and its libraries, what exactly could be the desired steps suggested by what are your recommendations after completing the Python bootcamp together with the libraries? And I'm just adding on to the question which the user asked. So when what I understand is after completing it, suggestions from your end in terms of making a portfolio, in terms of practice materials, in terms of nurturing, in terms of testing oneself how exactly good I am. So that's just an addition from my side in the question. So how should
Yeah,
one start, and your recommendations, please?
yeah. Basically, step number one would be the Python from A to Z. You already mentioned that. Once
Yeah.
you learn Python, I would say that step number two would be learn algorithms. machine learning or data science, AI algorithms. So basically, you have the tools available. And I would say
Okay.
that if you have the time, mathematics. Because
Okay.
for me, a person that uses a machine learning algorithm without the mathematical knowledge is like the chef that tries to follow a recipe to make a dish without understanding how flavors are mixed. You know what I mean? So if you try to cook a dish and you don't understand how flavors are mixed or how acid mixes with sweet and these kind of things, how potatoes behave under certain degrees of temperature, you are
Yeah.
completely, because if you just follow step by step a recipe and you deliver a dish, yes, you deliver that dish, but you cannot make variants, you cannot improvise, you cannot make it your own, you're just copying. So for me, understanding the mathematics is like the chef that understands how things work behind the scenes. And that means
Okay.
that with that, what I mentioned, once you have the tools, once you have the knowledge, once you are prepared, start doing your first data analysis. Maybe with one of these competitions I mentioned on Kaggle,
Yeah.
maybe because you want to do something by yourself. Imagine you live in the countryside and you have a drone and you make the drone travel along the countryside taking pictures, and you want to identify how big are the houses, or how much time does the crop need before to be harvested, something like that. Okay, so either because you want to do that by yourself, or either because the company tells you so, or either because it's a competition, the first thing is to start applying this knowledge. Because at the end of the day, yeah, you can read 1,000 books from Pact, you can take 1,000
Yeah.
courses from me, but if you don't take the first step to go the extra mile, this knowledge is worth nothing one more time, isn't it?
Definitely. And like an addition from my side as well as one of the queries is like many students nowadays, majorly like quite a few number of students, they are intimidated by the mathematics, the advanced one, intermediate, and statistics while venturing into data analytics, data science. So, what's your take to such people that how could they cope with? Because a lot of people might have dropped out of mathematics out of after graduating after their college studies. So, any such useful, I would say, insights, recommend your experience so far till now, because you have, you have taught 6 lakh plus students. So, like, if you want to share some of the, experiences that any of the student might have dropped out of mathematics, have this constant fear, throw some light on that. Share us the experience, please.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. Do you know why mathematics is the most hated subject all around the world?
I do know, but I would like you to answer that. But if you ask me, I think it's probably because uh, it's the most technical thing, and nowadays, and even before in my time, people in their early age used to have this habit of cram things up. In my time, I'm talking about. I am not concerned about today's time. So
Okay.
mathematics is something where you don't need to memorize anything. It's only based on logics. So that's my
Well,
understanding. But you are a teacher, so
yeah. Well, if that was the case, grammatics is also very technical, understanding how we make these phrases in English, understanding
yeah,
irregular verbs, conjugation. If you try to learn Spanish where every verb is completely irregular, wow, that is also very technical.
yes, yes,
So technicality is one thing, but usually if people don't like one thing, it's because they don't understand it. It's as easy as that. If I don't like philosophy, maybe it's because I don't understand philosophy and I don't understand these abstract concepts that philosophy talks about. It's the same with mathematics. Usually, people that don't like mathematics is because it's something so completely abstract, completely difficult, and they didn't have a useful teacher, let's say, that was able to guide people along. So, usually, what I found out while teaching mathematics online in my platform, in Udemy, and so forth, is that people need to understand mathematics
yeah,
and understand the mathematics that are needed. If I tell you that, yeah, you need to learn mathematics because if you know mathematics, you will be able to build the bridge. You will tell me, hey, Juan, I will not buy a single bridge in all my life. So I don't care about that. And it's completely true. So
Yeah.
whenever the mathematics are completely applied to one field, and if you take that, for instance, if you've seen the movie The Matrix is called the Matrix because at the very beginning you can see numbers and words flowing from up
Yeah.
in rows and columns, that each one of these rows and columns symbolizes a pixel, and each pixel is one color from 0 to 255. And each one of these colors, when the matrix is big enough, you have a picture, a movie, or a streaming like the one we're doing today. People start understanding that they are surrounded by matrices, that every time that they look at their mobile phone, they are looking
Yeah.
at a that their time that they're looking at a video, they're looking at a matrix. And from there you can start explaining things like addition, like subtraction, like
Mm.
multiplication, like any type of operation related to matrices. This is just an example, but
Exactly.
you try to focus mathematics first from something that is close to the user, that the user already knows from their usual life. It's always easier to understand. I remember a physics teacher trying to explain, moments, forces, tensors, whatever, and he didn't succeed with that.
Okay.
And I remember telling him, hey, what you're trying to explain is the problem we have every time we have a puncture on a wheel. If
Yeah.
my car has a puncture on a wheel and I need to take that wheel off, the longest the tool is and the more force I do, the easier it is for me to remove the different parts. So basically, I can take the wheel off. And he looked at me
Yes.
and said, wow, that's true. That's what I wanted to explain. So again, concepts
Yeah.
are abstract. I mean, numbers are abstract. Can you think of the number three? Imagine the number three. How many times have you seen the number three walking on the street? Never, because
Yeah.
number three is an imagination. It's a symbolic thing that represents, well, one, two, three, represents a concept. So basically, if all these abstract things that we call mathematics, we are able to lower it down on earth and give it eyes, give it a face, give it a color, give it a flavor, so the user understands it, it becomes 10 times easier, thousands of times easier. And that's why I told you the story at the beginning, that after I saw that machine learning A to Z was lacking of programming and was lacking of mathematics, that's when I started creating all the mathematic courses, all the Python courses. And I would say that that was one of the key of my success, trying to lower down the concepts, the very abstract concepts, to something that you and me may understand on a happy Thanksgiving evening
Yeah.
while we are enjoying the dinner.
Okay. So one last question, and so there are two parts of that. So one is by so since you mentioned about we are having this detailed EMA YT live uh, relating to Python data science. So the question is very simple. Like once I or somebody is a proficient in data analysis, Python, machine learning. So to be able to keep pace with the current competitive landscape and to be aware of what is happening in the world, how should one keep oneself updated? That's the first question, the first part. Second is it's my personal one, since we have been talking about mathematics and statistics. So just out of curiosity, what happens to be your favorite, I would say, section of maths? Is it like number system? Is it combinatorics? Is it like the determinants, matrices, probability? So this is from my end, just for our audience to know.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
start with the last one.
Okay.
In my case, I would say that my favorite one from all time has been probability. Probability
Okay.
because I apply that a lot. I would say every day, or on the gaming world. Every time I play or every time I teach people how to create a game, is 90% probability. And depending on how you play with that, the result may be one or the other. So probability I would say is the first one, and I would say that statistics is probably the second one, because they are
Okay.
such a special fields. I mean, it's not algebra, it's not analysis, it's in the middle of everywhere. It
Yeah.
just brings of all the areas that I think that statistics and probability are probably my favorite ones. And usually are
Okay.
those were the two that I started teaching the first. Then it came the algebra, it came the numerical methods, and so forth. But these two, I would say that are my lucky ones. Let's say my favorite ones. On the other side, if people is already on the field, they already have the basics, and they want to give it the extra push. I mean, being on the wave of knowledge nowadays is very complicated. Why?
Yeah.
Because every day new things are published, new papers appear, new techniques, new algorithms, new on everything. Usually, what I suggest is that try to live one day per month, let's say we 1 day per month, for investigation. What does
Okay.
investigation mean? It can be this blog you follow, this podcast you are listening to, maybe a conversation with AI trying to understand from ChatGPT what things were published in the last month that it's worth knowing about. Sometimes it's following that YouTuber that does this video monthly. Sometimes it's just being on a newsletter that is sent to your email about new stuff. But at the end of the day, I just say to do that once a month, because it's something that you could do every day, that even you
Yes.
could do on the morning and in the afternoon, and you would never stop. We have arrived at a point where we are in the era of the information. Information used to be on universities 50 years ago, let's say. If you wanted to learn something, to create something, to improve existing knowledge, used to happen 99% of the times on universities. Nowadays, it happens in your house, it happens in my house, it happens in garage, it happens in companies, it happens everywhere.
Everywhere.
So I would say that just give yourself this space to keep learning. Remember what I mentioned before. The goal is not to arrive to an end. The goal is to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And the journey keeps evolving and keeps changing. Tomorrow it'll rain. The day after it will snow. Then there will be sun. Then there will be a hurricane. We don't know. But a lot
Yeah.
of things will keep changing and changing and changing, and allow yourself some space for this inner knowledge. And also very important and related to that is that people that really goes into technology uh, usually start leaving things behind. What I mentioned with that is that they forget to wake up and stretch every hour, then sit down again, to drink water, which is very important, to work on their mental and physical things. So I know some people that wanted to become data scientists. I need to become data
Mm.
scientist. They did my courses. They did a lot of things. But think that at the end of the day, the machinery you work with, it's this one, is the
Yeah.
brain. And if the brain is not healthy, you will not
Yes.
learn more. If you try to read every day about new stuff that comes out to be number one in the field, probably you will finish being crazy. So my advice to people is just to work on their knowledge, of course, to keep improving their skills, but also to work on their mental and physical behavior as well. Because at the end of the day, uh, as I mentioned, if I want to know a thing or I don't remember a thing, I go to the Wikipedia. And if the
Yeah.
teacher that has, as you mentioned, 600,000 students around the world goes to the Wikipedia because if he doesn't remember, if the condition says homeosedastic or it says normalization of the curves or whatever, it will happen to you as well. So that is
Yeah.
very important to remember.
It's more of like the way I understand, and I think our users also understand is constantly feeding oneself on a regular basis, but just by trying to figure things out. We have so much things like Chat GPT and other AI tools. We have Google, Yahoo, Wikipedia, so on and so forth. So it's just about doing and finding the right problems and the right solutions at the right platform. That's how I think we figure out in a day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Kwan, it has been a wonderful session with you. And what I really liked about is the questions, our users have been engaged with me and with you as well. And moreover, I would also like to say that upon researching about your courses, I mean, it came to me as like, quite fruitful a knowledge that you have been sharing. So, and I wish you all the very best with this first episode of ours. I was glad enough that you joined us. So thank you so very much for joining us for this first episode. And I would uh, say that keep joining. I would say this to my users, keep subscribing and joining to this YD channel because we are going to be coming up with a lot of live episodes on a week by week basis, starting from today. The initiative has been started because we've been receiving a lot of requests. And for people who want to upgrade themselves into the Python machine learning, I would request people to join Kwan's course on Udemy. It's available, and he'll be fortunate enough to help you out. So do subscribe to us. We're going to be coming up with a lot of episodes on a week by week basis, and I'll keep you guys posted. Thank you, Kwan. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Have a
very
nice
much
day.
for inviting me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.